me what I'm looking at. This is memo after memo after memo, including the mayor said it didn't affect your ability to respond.
Obviously, any budget cut is going to impact our ability to provide service. At this point, that is a ground truth. Sounding the alarm that the fire department is underfunded, understaffed, and under-resourced.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
In this video today, the Los Angeles City Fire Department chief threw the mayor under the bus, which some people are reporting has gotten her fired. Also, Mark Zuckerberg met with Trump today and dropped a bombshell announcement. And Gavin Newsom is trying to save his you-know-what. These stories and more in this video. But let's start with what the chief had to say about the mayor.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job. And I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
Now let's give the Los Angeles City Fire Department chief some credit because she didn't have to say any of that. She didn't have to do the interview, and she definitely didn't have to answer questions, because what do they usually do? They say that everything's fine, everything's going according to plan, nothing went wrong, et cetera, et cetera. So I do want to give credit there. Now, a lot of you guys say she still needs to resign herself, and that may be fine. But the point being that she's bringing attention to, which she may get axed regardless, right, is that the department has been underfunded. But wait a minute. Everything we've been talking about is labeled misinformation according to the governor, right? And now you got this fire chief throwing the mayor under the bus and exposing the truth. Now, for the people in the back who claim that she's just trying to stir up more drama, she brings the receipts. Look at this.
And let me show you real quick. Photographer Tony Butit, I'm going to ask you to pan over to that table. Tell me what I'm looking at. This is memo after memo after memo, including to the Board of Fire Commissioners, where you pointed out your concern that you were not going to adequately be able to respond to a wildfire, an earthquake, everything that we see precisely in this city.
That's my job as a chief, is to take a big step back and understand where and how can we better serve the community. As a community needs more, we need to have more to make sure that our firefighters can serve them. I identified early, my team identified early, labor identified early that we have service gaps. So when you talk about sounding the alarm and asking and requesting budgets that are easily justifiable based off of the data, real data, shows what the fire department needs to serve this beautiful city and the beautiful community that we swore that we would. That's what that is about. It is the follow-up. It's showing and justifying where our gaps are, and it's raising and sounding the alarm that the fire department is underfunded, understaffed, and under-resourced.
It's like as soon as I'm done talking about this story, another bombshell is released, right? And so she has been making her rounds on the different networks and bringing attention to the fact that, yes, the LA mayor definitely failed the fire department, and there is no question about it. And she should be held accountable, just like the rest of them, including Gavin Newsom. And for the people who were trying to claim that the budget cut exposure or bombshell story was misinformation, she also confirmed that that did hinder their ability to respond to this fire. Let's listen to that.
The mayor said it didn't affect your ability to respond. Did it affect LA City Fire's ability to respond, starting with the Palisade fire and then this domino effect of fires, including the Archer fire that we're seeing happen right now in Granada Hills?
Yeah, I think obviously any budget cut is going to impact our ability to provide service. That's at this point, that is a ground truth in regard to our ability. If there's a budget cut, we had to pull from somewhere else. What does that mean? That doesn't get done. There's delays. So in the end, again, I'm going to focus on getting us what we need from this particular catastrophe and disaster and how much it's impacted the communities that we love. I got to go after the things that will help our firefighters, keep them safe, and make sure that if and when this ever happens again, that we're properly funded and that we have the ability to do our jobs and keep people safe.
So at this point, I mean, she pretty much just ended that mayor's career. I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried to get the recall effort going after this entire event wraps up, because this is just pitiful. I would understand if you were cutting the budget of a department that isn't based on people's life, right? And whether or not they are going to be able to survive based on the emergency response. I mean, people don't understand the fire department. They don't just respond to fires, okay? When someone calls 911, usually it's the fire department showing up first. So they need the resources. They need the people. And so she gave this party message to the mayor because this reporter was relentless. I'm telling you, she kept digging at this chief. And here's what the message the chief had for the mayor.
What is your message to city administrators, starting with Mayor Bass?
My message is the fire department needs to be properly funded.
And it's not.
It's not at this point, and we've got the justification. We know where our gaps in service are. We know we need 62 new fire stations. We need to double the size of our firefighters. The growth of this city since 1960 has doubled, and we have less fire stations.
Let's repeat that, because those numbers are a little jarring. 20 years ago, you had more fire stations than you had now?
We had 112 fire stations. Now we have 106. And since 2010, we've had an increase, doubled our call volume, which is firefighters responding to calls, 55% increase with 68 less firefighters.
Now, I'm going to just tell you guys this, because I was in the military, right? So technically I worked for the government. Anytime you work for the government, city, county, state, federal, or in the military, this is the same issue you always have. There seems to always be a lack of funding, a lack of manpower, a lack of resources, and they want you to figure it out every single time. Again, the problem in this scenario is we're talking about the fire department, okay? These are people that obviously the citizens depend on in an emergency. So maybe other agencies, it would make sense to have that type of culture. But when it comes to the fire department, this is negligent. Now, speaking about culture, the mayor just called the chief into a closed door meeting. Now, we know what this is all about. Check this out.
Growing criticism and a one-on-one interview with NBC4's Robert Kovacic. LA Fire Department Chief Kristen Crowley has now been summoned to meet with Mayor Karen Bass.
He joins us live from LA City Hall with breaking details you'll see only on 4. Robert.
Michael and Colleen, you are exactly right, and I am going to quote you here because that is what sources told us. It is a complex and perhaps head-scratching moment in the firefight going on right now throughout the city of Los Angeles. Sources told NBC4 that Fire Chief Kristen Crowley this afternoon had been summoned to Mayor Bass's office, and that is where we are right now. We are standing outside of the office where the meeting that took place at 4 o'clock is still underway.
Now, just moments after that closed door meeting, it is now being reported by the Daily Mail that the mayor did fire the Los Angeles Fire Department chief. So this is getting out of hand at this point. Now, before I actually read you this article, understand something. The mayor has not come out and confirmed this. In fact, there are other reports that says that the mayor is denying this. However, this is being reported. So this could be true or it could be false, but let's just read it for entertainment purposes, okay? The LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley is dismissed by Mayor Karen Bass after scathing criticism over Inferno response. It says here that Kristen was summoned by Bass this afternoon about 4 p.m. She came back from that meeting, hugged her staff goodbye, and left. She said she was fired, the source said. The alleged booting follows Crowley lashing out against the mayor, cuts to her department in her interview with a local Fox TV station around 12 p.m. And we already played you those clips, but why don't we just say it one more time? My message is the fire department needs to be properly funded, and it's not. And this is exactly what should be said. But think about this. You want people to be honest. You want change. You want to serve the community, but you won't allow people to be authentic and really hold you account because you fire them. I find that to be very interesting. Now, in this interview, they're also interviewing someone in the higher-ups who used to work for the fire department, and here's what they said. In my entire career, a fire chief has never thrown a mayor under the bus. It's unbelievable for her to go on the offensive like that. No, it's unbelievable what happened to the citizens of Los Angeles. I can care less about the mayor's feelings. He added that amid fury over alleged failures in preparedness and in tackling the fires that levied neighborhoods in Los Angeles this week, the city leaders are fearing for their positions, are starting to turn on each other. They should fear for their positions. What world are we living in? They should all be fired. Let's go. Let's get them all out. It was a brilliant move on her part. One of them, and then they go on to say that it was a brilliant move on her part, and they're referring to the actual chief. One of them is going to get taken out regardless. So either the fire chief was going to go or the mayor was going to go, right? So it was very smart on the chief to go out there and throw the mayor on the bus because someone was going to take the fall for this publicly. And that's what this individual was alluding to. And we also know that the tensions were already at a boiling point between Bass and Crowley, even before the disastrous fires broke out on Tuesday, because we know that the mayor continued to push for more budget cuts for that department. So if you're in the shoes of the chief, you absolutely are fed up because you are the person on the ground reacting to this catastrophe. People aren't necessarily looking at the mayor. They're depending on you to save their life, to save their home. And how can you do that if you're not properly funded? I would be up to here for sure. Yeah, so when you think about people who are trying to cover their you-know-what and save their job because they care more about themselves than the actual people they're supposed to be serving, that also applies to Gavin Newsom, because now he backtracked on his comments about the water and he's launching an investigation into the fire hydrants. Check this out.
Today, Governor Newsom said that he is asking for an independent investigation into why the hydrants aren't working. And you go out to talk to people, they're relieved by that, but they want to make sure that it's actually independent, that they find out what really went wrong. The last couple of days we've been out, even yesterday, the hydrants, there was no water coming out. We were here in the Palisades. There was a house that reignited. Fire department shows up. They hook the hose up to the hydrant, and you could see the look of frustration on their faces, Leland. There was no water coming out, and they start shouting out to each other, find a pool nearby, a residential swimming pool. They've been having to go to residential swimming pools to get water in many of these neighborhoods.
Now, as that reporter is stating that there was no water coming out of the fire hydrants, you'll hear some other fire captain or higher up obviously say a statement that contradicts that, right? They can't even get on the same page about what is true. But what they will do is complain about misinformation all day long, which is why Gavin Newsom launching this independent investigation is laughable. Because if you want to know exactly what happened, just ask the president of the United States, because here's what he said.
The other thing is, look, you know, I think you're getting a bad rap. I know you're getting a bad rap about these fire hydrants don't have enough water in them. Give me a break. Give me a break. What this is all about is the utilities, understandably. What they did is they cut off power because they're worried about these high tension lines coming down and causing more fires in the wind, right? When they do that, guess what? They shut off the power that controls the ability to pump the water. And so now you're getting generators here. I mean, this is complicated stuff. They're going to have a lot of demagogues out there trying to take advantage of it. But you're doing the right thing. We're going to get it done, God willing. And I say to the people of Southern California, God bless you. Stay strong. Stay strong. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere.
Thank you.
You know, it's so fascinating to see the response and the reaction from everybody. But where was that same energy for North Carolina? I'm still trying to square that in my mind. That's the first thing. Secondly, at the end of the day, someone who just lost their house, they care less why there is no water in the fire hydrant. They want a solution. So Gavin Newsom launching this investigation is really BS, okay? This is an effort to try to get people to stop hounding him because we know he's been incompetent. And then when he holds that meeting with the president who contradicts the investigation, I mean, if that's the answer to why there's no water in the fire hydrants, then what's the investigation for? And here's what Gavin Newsom had to say on X. California is preventing insurance companies from canceling home coverage for LA wildfire victims and impacted zip codes over the next year. The folks in these communities have suffered enough. They should not have to deal with the stress of home insurance on top of all of it. Okay, but what about the insurances that have already been canceled? What about those? Right? Okay, got it. Now, there is word that the federal government is planning to pay 100% of the bill as it pertains to this disaster. And the question then is, well, why did they do that for North Carolina? And why am I continuing to bring that up? Because what is the actual difference here? You know, it's crazy to me. And if you guys know the answer, put it in the comment section. Now, what's also interesting about this entire development is that his press office released this statement claiming in terms of water reliability and water supply at this moment in Southern California, things are looking pretty solid. Well, if things are looking pretty solid, what's the point of the investigation? Now, we all have to understand, we are going to continue to rip Gavin Newsom for his incompetence. And now the celebrities are. And here's another one for you. Mel Gibson went on to Fox News And Laura Ingraham asked him what was his message to Gavin Newsom. Here's what he said.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair gel. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say to them? Not big admirer of either, but there you go.
Okay, so let's go to this next story where Joe Biden gave a press conference today about his economic success as president, which technically is economic failure, in my opinion, if you're talking about the working class, of course. And they asked him a few questions, and I mean, I don't know what's going through this guy's head. I mean, probably nothing, which is why he gave answers like this.
Become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be president of the United States, but I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election. And that's why I stepped aside, but I was confident she could win.
So his reasoning is that the party wouldn't be unified if he continued to run. That's his excuse. I mean, how laughable is that, right? I mean, there's no way to spin this except that, number one, he shouldn't have run to begin with. We know this. Secondly, he shouldn't even been the president. We know that as well. But thirdly, to say that Kamala Harris could have beat Trump, well, if she could have, why didn't she? And if you could have beaten Trump, why didn't you? I mean, this guy's laughable. And yes, they did ask him about his pardon spree that he's been on and if there's any more coming up.
Can you just give us a sense of what other pardons and commutations you're considering in your last 10 days?
Well, the answer is no, because of two things. One is that it depends on some of the language and expectations that Trump broadcast in the last couple of days here as to what he's going to do. The idea that he would punish people for not adhering to what he thinks should be policies related to his well-being is outrageous. But there's still consideration of some folks, nothing but no decision.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have you talked about what kind of post-presidency?
Now, he also had a reaction to Mark Zuckerberg, who recently has been sucking up to Trump. It's being reported that he actually went to Mar-a-Lago today and met with Trump. Of course, the report already is that he changed up the policies on Facebook. Now, we'll see if that actually happens in real life. But here's what sleepy Joe Biden had to say.
Of walking away from fact-checking, as well as not reporting anything having to do with discrimination regarding to TPS, I find to be just contrary to American justice, the way we talk about one another.
Well, in regards in the way that we talk about one another, you're one to talk because clearly you labeled people who support Trump as a threat to democracy, the threat to this nation. We can go down the line. Everybody knows it already. So I find that to be laughable as well. And guys, he has one more press conference that they have been reporting he will do. It will be his final, scheduled for January 15th. So hopefully they have enough drugs pumped into him so he can deliver a strong performance. Now, since Joe Biden brought up Mark Zuckerberg and he was condemning him for his moves in regards to Meta, it is now being reported that Mark Zuckerberg ordered Meta to remove tampons from men's bathrooms. I mean, the fact that this is even a thing is crazy to me. The article goes on to say that the company told facility managers to remove the tampons from the men's bathrooms, Some people could hardly believe that this had been the state of things at the social media giant, and I'm one of them. This move comes as Zuckerberg has made a sharp right political pivot in recent months. He did have a meeting with President-elect Trump at his Mar-a-lago home after he announced the change to the fact-checking policies at Meta, which is all very interesting. He also had a podcast episode with Joe Rogan, which I'll show you a clip right after this. And then the Times notes that the process by which these changes have been made is different than the status quo for the company. Quote, the entire process was highly unusual. Meta typically alters policies that govern its apps, which include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Threads, by inviting employees, civic leaders, and others to weigh in. Any shifts generally take months, but Mr. Zuckerberg turned this latest effort into a closely held 6-week sprint, blindsiding even employees on his policy and integrity teams. Now, that sounds like someone who's made a decision to adapt or die, because we know at this point he really doesn't have a choice. Okay, you're either going to get down with what's happening. People demand more access to free speech. They don't want to be censored. Now, having said all that, let's take a look at this clip with Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Rogan. And Mark is saying something he should have said from day one. And this is why I don't trust anything that he says, because when you hear his explanation about why Facebook did what it did, especially during COVID, you just can't help but wonder, why did he wait till now to say this?
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They wanted us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, for this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating and coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
All right. Well, number one, I don't feel sorry for Mark Zuckerberg, and you shouldn't either. Number two, if this was happening, why didn't you come out and say that and expose them for what they were doing? Right? I mean, I find that to be fascinating. And here's the other thing. You did take down posts like that. You're saying that you told them no, but your algorithm, your content moderation team, they definitely did. Listen, I find it funny how so many things were banned off Facebook. Okay? I mean, do we need to go down the list? It's insanity. There was a time where if you called the USA flag racist, you were good. But if you called the BLM flag racist, you got banned. So make it make sense. All right, so now is a good time to get you guys to answer this in the comment section below. In regards to that story of the mayor summoning the Los Angeles City Fire Department chief into a closed-door meeting, what do you think is going to take place in that meeting? And will the chief come out and change her tune? Let me know what your direct reaction is to that in the comment section below. Okay, so by now it's no secret that Trump was sentenced by that New York judge who is clearly conflicted in so many different ways. Trump definitely left him stunned because he had a chilling message for that judge. Also, there was additional bombshell stories about the California wildfires that happened earlier today that continues to expose the scandals and much more. If you guys want to check out that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.